when you heard the message from Boris Johnson yesterday. Your thoughts?
I was hoping it was going to be sooner. If the business rates holiday is not extended, if the VAT cut for hospitality is not extended, then we are going to be in big trouble as an industry.
Tim Coffey owns 4 restaurants, 3 of them in Bath. He hoped for more from yesterday's prime ministerial blueprint for England's unlocking, and this is why.
Take this restaurant for example. I've got 10 people on furlough here. Every week I'm building up a rent bill of £1,000 a week. The furlough scheme is costing me around about £1,000 a month. The employer's contributions, the employer's national insurance, the employer's pension contributions that I have to pay here. The insurance has to still be paid. Just this morning I got a letter from a debt collection agency about our music licence, even though we're not paying music at the moment.
What's your debt burden like now compared with over a year ago?
Well, I've borrowed over £250,000 through the bounce back loans. A year ago I had no debt whatsoever.
Others in the sector, as well as some Tory MPs, have said a speedier return to business is imperative. It'll be May at the earliest before Tim's indoor restaurants are open. He's got more than 50 staff on furlough, a scheme which has undoubtedly shielded the economy. But even with that, and despite signs of the labour market stabilising, today's figures show those in employment having fallen by more than 500,000 in the last year. The under-25s hit hardest. So where, asks Labour, are the government's plans to prevent more economic harm?
I think this was the 4th time that we've seen announcements around restrictions and timescales for restrictions, but without clarity about economic supports. This has happened time and time again.
Boris Johnson visiting a school in South London today. Amidst talk of a possible return to hugging loved ones in England by mid-May, he continued the theme when signposting business support in next week's budget.
What we'll do is continue to put our arms around everybody in the country to look after them throughout the pandemic as we have. You know about the Kickstart funds that are available to help people from job to job, to get young people into new jobs, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that and the Chancellor's plan for jobs next week.
How long have you been here?
I've been here now for 8 years in September.
Back in Bath we meet a publican, Paul Brooks, who's also a magician. This part of his pub mothballed for nearly a year now.
And just along here, this is where the magic bar is.
Confident of a recovery, for now the magic will have to wait. It's outdoors where he's hoping to serve beer again in April. He won't have missed reports today of a surge in overseas holiday bookings, but fears a slow return for Bath's legion of foreign tourists.
Probably 60% of my custom, maybe even slightly higher at certain parts of the year, are purely internationals, to be honest with you. This is the main coach port right here, so 30, 40, 50, even 70 coaches a day right outside here, and obviously we're one of the main stops for them.
It might be a while before that trade returns.
Absolutely, I can't see that hope, unfortunately, for maybe even another 2 or 3 years, you know.
For now, for so many in this and other sectors, time stands still, waiting as all 4 UK governments devise ways to reboot their economies safely. The Prime Minister said he's optimistic England's restrictions will be lifted by June the 21st, but the consequences for businesses will likely last long after that.
Andy Davis reporting. Now, the Prime Minister has admitted that the government is considering the possible use of vaccine passports, but he said that a review, to be led by Michael Gove, will have to resolve deep and complex ethical issues before they can be used. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has more details. Gary.
Well, what the government actually told us yesterday is that they're going to be looking into COVID certification and seeing whether they can do that. They don't want vaccine passports. They're not at all comfortable with the idea that you could or should compel the entire population to have a vaccine. What they're looking for is something that could gain you access to buildings or events, whatever, in the future, and which would either show that you'd had a vaccine or that you'd had a very recent negative test. They're looking into all of this. We've been told that. What we learnt today was that they've got so far down the line, not a long way, but so far, that they're actually considering using one of the NHS COVID apps to help them with this. Not the one that does test and trace, because that has all sorts of privacy safeguards on it, but the one that you book a test appointment with. Now, all of this is a long way down, further down the line. Not a long way down the line, but further than you would ever have thought if you were listening to ministers quite recently saying they wouldn't go near this sort of thing, and further instinctively than many Tories, including the Prime Minister himself, would want to go. When a Labour government years ago was talking about ID cards, Boris Johnson said if he was forced to present one, he would eat it. It's not where they're comfortable, but you do feel today that it is a place that they are gingerly walking towards. The idea that you might have to produce some kind of proof that you've either had a negative test or a vaccination in order to gain access to buildings. But that review hasn't even started yet. It's just beginning to be planned, and it could have a while to run yet.
Gary, thanks very much.